inside another dimension, face battling barbarians and evil magic on a quest for adventure in a maze of monsters. Once you get into it, you'll never be the same. Hero Quest. Now, with 2 new adventure packs, the legend grows.
Hi, welcome back to Not Your Mother's Hobbies. Today we're going to look at our first of the big bad bosses of the Ogre Horde, the Ogre Champion. This figure is huge and looking really awesome. I really like the design of this. A grizzled gladiator with that weapon hand and spiked shield. Really cool. We've primed up with a Rattlecan Zenithal, so let's get to it. We're going to start with the skin. There's not as much skin on this one, even though we do have a large miniature with a lot of surface area. Surprisingly, though, not a lot of skin. We're going to start this one, even though we're doing a pale skin recipe, a new pale skin recipe. We're going to start it like we do with our usual Caucasian or lighter skin recipes with Guilliman flesh. We're just going to put that all over anywhere that is going to have skin. That's going to give us a fleshy undertone, even if we pale it up in the end anyway. So just go all around and hit those parts that are fleshy and need that first coat of paint. Now I am avoiding the gold areas, and that's just personal preference. You can totally do them here and now, but it helped me block it out and eyeball them later on in the miniature. And we're using snakebite leather for all of our leather banding. This is going to be on the shield. There's a bunch of straps across the chest and armor. We also have like on the weapon arm, there's like a buckled spiked bracer kind of thing. We're going all around that. All those leather wraps, even on the weapon itself, we've got some. And there's some belt loops on the metal girdle, I guess, that we end up doing with this snakebite as well. And I also do this little front flap also. In the artwork, they have it as red, but I wanted to tie it together with the browns, so I chose to do it brown. You could totally do it red if you want. We're using wildwood here. This is going to be for this scaled armor underneath, this kind of chainmail or what have you. It's a brassy kind of look to it. We're going to go around and get that. There are some pieces peeking over and under the arms and over some of the belts and stuff, so make sure you keep an eye out for those. We're using Skeleton Horde just for our skeleton bony bits, which should just be the teeth and this big skull motif on the big metal belt. I'm using Volupus Pink here just to add a splash of color on the skirting. In the artwork, it is a dark kind of red color. I chose Volupus Pink because I just like that color. You totally could keep it more in line with a natural red. We're also going to do these little pigtails here. I think this Ogre Champion is an Ogre Lady, which is kind of cool that they differentiated even the bosses up like that, giving us a little bit of variation there. We're using Basilicanum Gray for all of the steel armor bits, all the metal, kind of gray metal armor bits going all around. There's a lot of this metal going all over. This gladiator is kitted up, so just take your time, go all around. You can see here on these big banding leather strips, I decided to do like a metal banding around it for decoration, or a metal lining. I thought it was kind of cool to break it up like that. And then, of course, don't do the spiked rondel part of the shields. Keep that separate, and try to do your best to keep it separate as well on the big metal girdle belt thing too. So just go around and hit all of those metal parts. We're using Agrax Earthshade here to do our furs. A little bit of fur trim here and there underneath the hips and waist, and on this footy bit as well. And lastly, we got Apothecary White, just to give us some definition in that white hair. I guess not so last, since we did save it for the end. I'm using Guilliman Flesh here to block in all of the gold bits. That's going to be all these big fat spikes going all around, and the last link on the chain. Now focusing on the metallics, we're going to go with gunmetal, our usual bread and butter for layering up the steels, the shiny metals. We're going to put this very loosey-goosey, or heavy if you want, but I chose loosey-goosey because we got that zenithal underneath. And we're going to go around and we're going to highlight up, mid-tone up all of our metals. We're just going around. You can see when I was doing some of the brown leather straps that I just went over top of the bolts and stuff. And that's because, in the end, we're going to put this metallic on, and if I need to, I just put, 2 layers on, or a little bit of a thicker coat on instead, just to cover up that brown undertone. It's all going to blend in the end no matter what. Then we're coming in with Null Oil Gloss. Remember, this is discontinued, so you're going to have to make your own, either by doing a dark tone shade, and then follow that up with a gloss coat, or you can mix up your own with a 50-50 or 75-25, however you want, and you're going to put that on there. That gloss is going to deepen the recesses, as well as blend in anything that's not shiny to be shiny alongside our metallic paints before. Now we're using Retributor armor for our gold. This is my favorite gold to use. You can use whatever you would like. And we're going to put this on all of our big golden spikes and those last couple chains I pointed out earlier. Then, just like the silver metal, we're going to give this a glossy coat. And I'm using Reikland Flesh Shade Gloss, discontinued. Do your mixing or your 1-layer, 2-layer, doing a rosy flesh shade followed by your gloss varnish over top. We've got Wraithbone here. Remember, you can use Wraithbone or any off-white or white to do any of your cleaning up. I didn't have much to do on this one, and so we're just using it for the skull, layering up on that, as well as the teeth, those big prominent chompers. We got Warplock Bronze here, and we're using this to make that scale a little bit metallic around. We're going to use that all around. You can see some of the parts, if you had trouble before, eyeballing where it's peeking out over and under the arms and the leather straps. You can see where we did that. We're just going around with that Warplock Bronze. Rakarth Flesh. We're doing flesh tones now. This is where it starts to get pale and ghouly. We're going to go around and mid-tone up, clean up with the Rakarth Flesh. And this is going to begin to lighten up our skin all the way around. So go in and clean up any blotches, any spotting, any streaking, as well as just do your general mid-tone application. Just put that all around there. You can see what that's looking like. I think it took me 2 coats just blending. It's a really nice, smooth consistency we got going on in that paint, so you can layer up and blend. Then we got Gray Seer to add some more mid-tone variation. It is cooler, so if you have something this bright that is more red, use that, but I had Gray Seer and it worked out just fine. Alright, now we're doing our big ol' highlight. We're using Pallid Witch Flesh. This is perfect. You can see really paling up here. We're just going to go around and add a couple coats or layers or streaks or what have you of this. I think in some areas I did layer up with a second coat. Being a layer paint, it is thinner and you will see through it a little more. In other places I added some texture, like here, where I just did a little streaky to blend it in. And then, of course, did another layer on top to really get that bright highlight. When you're done with that, we're going chrome for all of our metallic bits. Just going all in there, adding some detail. You can see her on this front bit. I'm doing some streaking, some texture, just putting it in there, and some interesting shapes. Doesn't have to be perfect all the time. We're just doing the topmost areas, adding some sheens, some pings. We're going to do that on all the steel, as well as on the gold. So these little cones as well, we're going to add a little bit of chromy, shiny highlight. Now, I did not mention it before, it got lost in translation. This buckle around here, I did gold. And you can too. It does not have to be silver. So I did that gold and then highlighted with silver. It stands out. An interesting little note against all of this, the silver metal and that leather strapping. Balthazar Gold, we were just dotting on, speckling on, adding some textury highlights to those scales. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're just adding some breakup to those areas, some interest, and making that shine come through, making that detail that it is armor come through. We're using Volupus Pink here to do the mouth, just to add some extra color in there. Looked kind of weird being so bright. Then we got Bold Titanium White to highlight all of our fur. So that's this trim around the waist, as well as the bottom here of his footy, a little trim there too. Now you might have noticed that I haven't done any silver on the big weapon. And that's because I felt like on this model, it looked like a big, brutal weapon. And so instead we did a dry brush to make it look like a rough steel, like we did with some of our other weapons, like the Barbarian Sword and such. And when you're done making that weather-worn weapon, you just base up like normal, with a gray paint, a texture paint, a dry brush wash, and a dry brush. And there you have it. We have our Ogre Champion all finished up. Looking pretty rad, and with a recipe for pale, ghoulish flesh. I really like the contrast of the weapon up there being more rough-hewn and less metallic, as well as those little hints of gold on the elbow pad, the shield, and the wrist buckles, too, that keep that weapon on. Really like how that came out. You guys will notice that I have some black nails on the toes and that one hand, and you can use whatever black you want and just pop some dots in there and paint that up on the hand. It's good to be back, and I hope you enjoyed this first video back from my vacation. I hope you also enjoyed it being the first big boss showcase for Ogre Horde, showing us a little bit of what can be done, where we're going to go. We got 2 more of these big baddies left, so I hope this gets you excited for what's to come. I want to give a big shout out and thanks to all my patrons. You guys were awesome supporting me over my vacation, as well as everybody who gave kind comments and support just in general in the community. You know, thank you so much for believing in me and waiting for me and cheering me on and telling me to have a good break. Really appreciate that. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye!